Hey guys, I'm the one you lost, and in this video I'm going to walk you through how I made this artwork of Bae from Hololive. Now, I'm going to be trying to walk you through how I did it, how I put it together, and try to really teach you my rendering style so you can apply it to your own work, and hopefully as you learn more styles and try to develop your craft, you can make something wholly uniquely you, and you'll be able to hopefully be less confused about the rendering process. Now, let's go ahead and get started. Now, what we have here is just going to be the basic sketching process. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. You'll see that I actually used the liquify tool to kind of help shape the head, and that's actually because I actually struggled to get the head shape right, usually on the first pass, and that's just something that I'm struggling to learn how to control, so liquify kind of helps me cheat. Now, in terms of the pose, I went for kind of like this half, almost like that crisscross applesauce you used to do whenever you were in elementary school. But the idea was based off of a pose I saw on Pinterest, and I'm like, I can do this. So we have the hand here kind of playfully touching the mouth. Now, in terms of getting the hand position right, it did take a bit of work. Hands are notoriously difficult, doesn't matter how skilled you are. There's still going to be kind of some rough patches you're gonna have trying to get the hand right. You can see I was trying to find the proper angle, get the arm to kind of flow off the body correctly. It's a lot of work. Now, if I had an easy way to do it, I would tell you. Unfortunately, I don't. I'm not very good at drawing hands myself, and I'm still learning. So the best advice I can give you is don't give up. If you're frustrated, take a break. It's gonna be okay. You can do it. Now, if you're having trouble with it, I do recommend taking, like I said, a break, because coming back with fresh eyes is super important. Typically what I do whenever I'm learning and frustrated is I go for a walk, and that allows me to kind of think on what it was I was doing, maybe come up with some creative workarounds. I don't recommend doing things like watching a video, because you really do need to be thinking on what you're drawing. Now, in terms of the clothes, I kind of couldn't decide if I wanted kind of a frilly dress or if I just wanted something kind of elegant, and I ended up going for elegant. So I actually removed the tights here and go for bare legs just because it's a bit more attractive. Now, that might not be what you want, but for me, personally, it's what I liked, it's what I think looked good in this artwork. I wanted kind of the bare legs, because legs on a character like Bae, who is a dancer, are very attractive, and if that is what you're going for, and it's what I'm typically going for, try to focus on more elegant poses, something a bit more dainty, but also refined. And if you don't know what that means, that'll come with time as you start to filter out your poses and really figure out what it is that you like and what you need. Now, in terms of the pose here, we are almost done. I'm drawing the guides for the head, and typically for eyes, you want to go for a bit more realism. Even if it's anime and the eyes are big, you need to remember that eyes are exactly one eye length apart from each other, and they typically start where the eye socket begins, which is right where the flat part of the head begins, which is why I draw the flat part of the head. It helps make sure that I've guided myself properly and that I've actually got the eyes where they need to be. You'll notice that I don't draw the eyeballs, and that's because in this particular artwork I do something a bit different. I don't use lines for the eyeballs. In fact, I kind of just add kind of a blur effect. Now, the head is slightly tilting down, so that means that the ears are going to be up a bit more. Whereas if the head is going down, the ears will be more up. And if the head is up, the ears will appear more down. It's the way your head works in terms of perspective. Now, for the hair, you really want to make sure you're following the curvature of the head and that gravity is working properly. Now, thinking about gravity at all times is something that comes with a lot of practice. You have to get used to it. And it took me years to get to the point where I am. So if you don't quite understand how gravity works yet and how it kind of drapes over physical objects, just give yourself some grace, give yourself some time, and kind of give yourself the ability to figure it out on your own. Do not stress over it. If you get frustrated and it's affecting your artwork, in reality, you just want to get things done. That's all you really want. In terms of base color, I'm going for a very saturated skin tone and a neutral color for the dress to make all the other colors she has pop, like her red hair and her skin. I want to make sure that that is the focus and not so much the dress. And the dress being neutral will actually, in a weird way, bring attention to it with everything else being saturated. So you just kind of want to figure out your colors and how everything's working. Really make sure that you are following like the 70-20-10 rule in terms of primary, your main color being 70% of it, your secondary color being 20%, and your neutral or whatever color you want to be an accent to be about 10%. And that is typically a good rule of thumb. Now, with all that here, we are basically approaching the main end and where I'm going to start teaching you how to render. All this was basically just basic lead up to everything. And all we're doing now is we're just going to add little details, and I'm going to teach you how to render right now. Okay. Okay, so now I'm about to walk you through how I render the skin. Now, in terms of the skin, we are really trying to focus on the fact that the light is coming directly on top of her to kind of like the left of her, I think, is what I did. But we are just going to kind of light carve everything. We're going to draw in the lines physically first before we use the fill tool to put it in. And we're going to use a mixture of the airbrush and the checkered box by the color wheel, which is going to turn the airbrush into an eraser. And we're going to kind of create gradients inside of the skin tone. And the way we're going to do that is by doing things like locking transparency. I will point that out whenever we get to it. But for now, let's just start carving in the light. So I kind of want the light to kind of just be touching right where the breast meets the arm. And I'm going to zoom ahead here real quick. So we're going to speed this up. And you'll see that I lock transparency on whatever color I put in. And we're going to use the airbrush and the checkered box to create gradients. And that's going to turn the airbrush into an eraser. And we're going to do that to kind of lightly create like contrast in the shadows themselves. I'm just following the outline of the body. Nothing too crazy. Implying the elbow and adding the shadow to where the side of the shoulder is masked by the light not touching it. And this is basically just adding 3 stages of shading. The base tone, the shadow, and then the darker shadow, and then the final shadow. And we're adding little highlights there as well. And that's basically how we do the skin. We just need to really pay attention to the light source. So whatever light source you're using, I just recommend that if you have a 3D model where you can point light at it, I would actually recommend that. Clip Studio has that built in, but it's not always what you need to do, but it is good to use a reference for it. In terms of just adding all the shadows in, I added a bit of blush to the face as well, and I just used a selection pen to select what I want and only what I want. Selection pen is an incredibly powerful tool, so is the magic wand. It just allows you to add everything that you need to add, only where you need to add it. You'll see where I add a little bit where the light touches in the thigh there, and the calf, and we're just kind of adjusting all the different colors here and kind of making sure they blend properly. And that's basically how I do the skin. It's nothing too complicated, but it is vitally important that you have a reference that you're using where the lighting is correct. And if the lighting has any mistakes, that you can fix. Okay, so now we are working on the dress. Now, the dress is going to be shiny, and the way we are going to apply shines is with very much cell shading, which is just hard shadows, hard lights. And we're basically going to have a lot of varied colors in this. And the harder the shadows and the less soft you make them, the more shiny it looks. Almost gives it kind of a latex vibe. Not 100%, but it does. In terms of this particular artwork, we are going for shadows. As you can see, this entire time we are remembering the light source, which is above her and to the left of her. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us the proper thing. You also see that I changed the color of the light part of it. And the way I did that was by hitting Control U on the base color or the highlight color and just changing the hue and saturation to change the color. It's a trick I've been using for a long time now. It's built in, so it's less of a trick and more of a built-in feature. But that's basically what we're doing here. We're just kind of adding the wrinkles, applying everything we need to apply. And now, finally, we get to go to the hair. It's what a lot of people like and want to know. So I will do my best to explain how I do hair, and Spoilers, it's just similar to the dress and the clothes. It's very much just cell shaded with a little bit of blending added to it. So let's go ahead and get started. So for this particular artwork, I started off doing the highlights, and the way I did that was I highlighted basically this little bang right here, and I created the highlight using a lighter yellow color, and then I locked transparency using the checkered box in the layer section. I used the airbrush as an eraser again and kind of created a gradient out of it. Locking transparency, super helpful. I recommend everyone does it. It's one of those tricks that just makes everything a lot more correct. And you're going to be locking transparency a whole lot, so I highly recommend getting used to it. We are doing a darker color, and we are focusing on the areas that the light is not hitting. Again, we want to remember our light source all the time. I actually used to be terrible at lighting. It was the biggest criticism I got all the time on my artwork. And in a weird way, it was actually what motivated me to get better at it. I was like, I don't suck at light. I'll show you. You know, Spide is a hell of a motivator. And we are just kind of, now I'm constantly thinking about the light source at all times. And it makes lighting that much better once you're constantly thinking about what you need. And we are just adding 3 terms of shading. We're adding the base tone, the shadow, the darker shadow, and the highlight is its own thing entirely. But we have the whole idea here, and it's really that simple. It's just 4 layers, and you pretty much have it. And I'm telling you this, there's no real secret to rendering besides knowing your light source and using colors appropriately. Now, I do want to take this moment to talk about colors. In terms of colors, the way you want to do a darker color is you don't want to go straight down on the color wheel. You actually want it to be a little more saturated. And the way we do that is on the color wheel, we go down and to the right. And that's how we get a more saturated color. It's really just that simple. And you kind of adjust the colors as you go, make sure that the levels are correct. So the eyes are probably the most different thing that I've done in this particular artwork. We are just kind of drawing in the border where the lines would be. We're adding the eyeball and finally the iris. And we're kind of just stacking it on, and I'm kind of just using it almost painterly. We're adding an add glow layer to kind of add a little bit of a sparkle on top where the eyes are. And finally, the red part of Bae's eyes where there's a little bit of yellow in. Nothing too crazy. I tried to play around with it a bit, but it ended up being a bit much. We then added the highlights on top of the entire folder where the eyes are. That way it kind of blends in a bit more. We then add a kind of a blue border around it. And that's basically how I do eyes. It's really simple, but it looks complex. So I actually would recommend that whenever you're doing eyes, to keep it simple, but very high contrast, both the dark and the brights. You're just kind of trying to make sure that you're adding enough detail, but not too much detail. And the way you kind of want to go about doing that is just kind of slowly adding things, and then if you add too much, take it away. If it doesn't look right, it's because you've added too much. If it looks boring, it's because you added too little. You want to find that sweet spot, you know what I mean? That's basically like my golden rule of thumb is like if it's too busy, it looks wrong. If it's too basic, it's boring. You kind of want to find that in-between spot, and that's going to be different for everybody depending on how you do eyes. So I do recommend just playing around and figuring out what works for you. If my style works for you, awesome. If some other artist's style works for you, go with that one. It's whatever you like. You are the artist. So, heads up, now what we're doing is the post-processing. This is the actual secret sauce. This is what makes your artwork look polished and finished. If you have a great foundation, the post-processing will take it to the next level. As you can see, I'm kind of adjusting the colors, finding little areas where I can improve it. And what we're going to do now is, now that everything is in one folder, we are going to kind of convert it into one folder, making sure to check keep original file because we don't want to delete all of what we did. But the idea here is to kind of add things to where it looks correct. Like for the hair, for example, I added a bit of blue and we kind of made it pop. We then put everything into one folder, one layer, and we create a copy of it. We create a hard light copy, and that's going to make everything glow. We then do an add glow layer, add all the polish, and kind of make everything pop even more. And then we're going to start adding layer effects, like the multiply here, and then we're going to use the eraser tool to kind of add light where we need it again. And we're going to put everything in one folder, make a copy yet again. We're going to add a tonal curve to add more reds to the highlights, add more blues to the shadows, and we have this beautiful saturated artwork out of all that. It's one of those things that learning these tools is going to take your artwork to the next level. Now, I actually have some special effects that I use. I use auto actions that I got from Clip Studio's asset store. And what we're going to do is we're going to create kind of some more blush on the character. We're then going to create a blur. And we're going to make everything kind of blur, make it look nice, add everything to make it pop. See this little cotton effect? What we're going to do is we're going to erase parts of it, select it all, and then create a sharper image using unsharp mask. And that basically is going to put everything together. We're just adding little specks of dust to make it pop even more. And everything together, then with the chromatic abrasion, just makes it look extra, like, finished. You know what I mean? It's like post-processing is a secret. I actually have a whole video on in my channel under the tutorial section. I would recommend you check that out. I explain everything in greater detail. But basically, that is how I made this artwork. If you have any questions, if you felt I went too fast or didn't explain things well enough, leave a comment. I'll try to make an extra video going into more detail on what you want. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.